Welcome to the BBQ Lab. I'm David Gafford, and today we've got a special guest visiting the lab. You get to join us for an in-person class with David from Slow N Sear, who's teaching us the Cold Grate Method of cooking a nice, thick ribeye steak. You'll learn this Cold Grate Method, get a chance to see a different way to cook with a kettle grill, and see some of what happens here at the lab when the cameras aren't usually rolling. Let's get to it.
Thank you very much. I'm David Parrish, founder and CEO of SNS Grills. SNS stands for Slow N Sear. Slow N Sear is an accessory that goes in your common charcoal kettle style grills of most all manufacturers. This is the Slow N Sear. I'll remove this for a second so it's easier to see. So the Slow N Sear has a basket that your charcoal goes in, and then it has a water reservoir that holds water, and it's intended only for water. It's a water pan.
I see that these work in charcoal grills. Can you include wood chunks in them as well?
You can. In fact, that's a good question. We started off today with a full basket of lump charcoal, and we had 2 big chunks of pecan wood, and I think now the pecan wood turned into lump charcoal at some point.
This was a 3-hour class, and we obviously couldn't include the whole training in this video. We're cutting it down to feature the method first, and then I'll add in some of the additional training from David towards the end of this video.
Who has heard of the Cold Grate technique? I'm not getting any hands. That doesn't surprise me. It's a technique that we invented to go with the Slow N Sear, and the reason we needed it is because we found that the Slow N Sear is so freaking hot. If you leave a grate in the grill with the Slow N Sear at its just full burn, you're going to burn your food. The grate's going to be so hot that as soon as it touches the meat, it just starts charring. And that's actually not what we want. You want the surface of the meat to get around 300 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That's where the Maillard reaction happens. Simple sugars and amino acids on the surface combine and make sweet, sweet flavor. So the Cold Grate technique, basically, you leave the grate on the ground like this one is. Right before you cook, we're going to put it on the grill. This one's not fully put together, but we'll fix that. We're going to put it on the grill, and then we'll put the meat over the heat. We'll let it sear for a minute, and then we're going to rotate the grate. Flip the meat and put it back over the sear zone. And every time you do that, you're going to find within 5 to 15 seconds, the sizzle will start to happen. And we're going to sear the entire surface of the steak. So we're not actually looking for sear marks tonight. If we get sear marks, that's fine. We're not trying to avoid them, but we want to instead sear the entire surface of the steak. So instead of sear marks, we're going to get a sear mark. The whole thing seared, whole surface. And that's the Cold Grate technique. So we're going to warm the steak on the indirect side till it's around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to take them off. We're going to prep them. We're going to coat them with extra virgin olive oil and black pepper. We're going to, before we do that, we'll pat them dry with paper towels. And while the steaks are prepping, we're going to leave the grill's vents completely open. And we're going to let the charcoal get as hot as it can get. And then they'll be ready to sear when we come back out to cook. We put the salt on the meat about 6 hours ago. Salt, along with pepper, garlic, and onion, are 4 of the most common seasonings that you see in your kitchen. Salt is a mineral, sodium chloride, that comes from the ground. Onion, garlic, black pepper are large organic molecules. When you coat a piece of meat with those 4 seasonings, 3 of them don't go in. They only coat the exterior of the food. Salt is naturally found in meat. We put the salt in it 6 hours ago, and the salt penetrates the meat. As the salt penetrates the meat, it does a couple of things. It holds the water in, so you have a juicier bite. And if you think of the muscle fibers that make up the meat, it causes them to loosen or unwind. So when you cook, whether you're cooking your steak to medium rare or medium or even medium well, I can't say well done, medium well, that's as far as I can go. Anyway, regardless of your normal doneness, that steak, if it has the salt in it, applied hours in advance so that salt can soak in and unwind those muscle fibers, that steak's gonna be more tender than it would have been if you had applied the salt right before you start cooking. So the steaks are in the kitchen. They've been prepped. They've been dry brining with sodium for about 6 hours. All of our grills, 6, 7, 8, however many we have, they're all cooking at a low and slow temperature right now. So we're gonna get those steaks and we're just gonna bring them out and we're gonna put them on the indirect side and we're gonna let them warm up for the next half hour to 45 minutes.
If you're interested in a Slow N Sear for your grill, or if you'd like to get another grill from the SNSGrills.com website, use the code BBQLAB. You can save 10% on your purchase, just as a thank you for watching us here at the BBQ Lab.
So this is the beginning of the cook. We have the steaks. They've been brining in salt for about 6 hours. We're gonna warm them up on the indirect side. So I'm just gonna take a couple of these steaks, pop up the lid, put them on the indirect side. Actually, that one's really big. I'll do this one. Close her up. And now it's your turn. Okay, everybody, we've been cooking about 30 minutes now. Let's grab our instant read thermometers, check your steaks. We want to be around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're close to that, or maybe even a few degrees over that, we're going to take those steaks off and we're going to prep them for the sear. The steaks are done with the warming period, so we've taken those off. To get your grill ready for the sear, make sure the basket is 75% full of charcoal or more. Open up the vents and use your charcoal tongs to move the charcoal around so the hot charcoal is mixed with any of the charcoal that hasn't lit yet, because we want that all white hot when we come back out. Once that's done, we're going to go prep these steaks. Now for the steaks, we're going to pat them dry with a paper towel. After we pat it dry, we're going to coat it with extra virgin olive oil and black pepper. Now we're going to put the black pepper on there with the oil so that the black pepper experiences that same heat that the surface of the meat does. And we're going to put a lot of black pepper on there, probably more than you've done before. And it's okay because some is going to fall off during the cook. The rest of it that remains on the surface, the flavor is going to bloom. So we've got it patted dry, we've got it coated with the extra virgin olive oil, we've got it coated with the black pepper. Then we're going to take it out to the grill and then we're going to cook using the cold grate technique, and we'll talk about that when it's time.
Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos just like this.
Okay, we're getting ready for the sear. We've got a hot fire. We've got a cool grate. It's cool to the touch. We're going to go ahead and put that on. The lid can stay off to the side. We're not going to close it. And where's our tongs? There's our tongs. Let's go ahead and put the steak on. And
here, right?
Yep, just drop it on there and then listen. And you can already hear it. It's sizzling. We're going to set a timer for a minute. And then in a minute, we're going to move the steak over to the indirect side, and then we're going to flip the steak back onto the heat.
Cool enough for me to touch still?
No. Okay. I mean, it is, but let's use gloves because it won't be in 45 seconds. Like you can clearly hear the sear right now. That's radiant heat. Some of you are probably saying the steak's on fire. I assure you that steak is not on fire. If you look, it's actually the charcoal that's on fire right now. The steak is just cooking. Because we're using a cool grate, the surface of the steak, none of it is hot enough to have smoke, to have ignition or the smoke point. So the oils, the fats, nothing is burning. All right, get ready to spin. You can spin with one hand. It's an easy spin grate, so it'll work. Yep, spin it. And then we're gonna, that bad boy, and we're gonna flip it. All right, and then we're gonna listen again for the sear. And I'm already starting to hear it. So we're at 1:10, so we'll let that go to 2:10. You can see the surface of the steak is getting color, but it's not exactly seared yet. What has happened though is that surface is really dry at this point. So we're gonna put the steak, we're gonna sear that side of the steak again here in a few seconds, and it's going to be much browner after that next minute. It really shows off how you have to get the moisture off the surface before you can actually sear it. Steak's still not on fire because the grate's too cool for it to have burned. And let me see here. Yep, go ahead and spin it, and you can do the honors this time. Okay, where you do see some black around the edges, that's the fat. So you are going to char the fat a little bit, but the surface of the meat itself is going to be just fine.
We're going to do one more flip, or is this it?
One more.
It's 1 minute every time?
Well, wait, have we done one side twice yet?
That's this one right now. This is, yeah, twice on that side.
Okay, yeah, so each side gets 2 minutes total.
And the reason we spun that was to
Cool
use
grate.
the cool grate on that second side.
Yep.
And then each time.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So we've got another 20 seconds. So because we're searing with the radiant heat, the charcoal's doing all the work. That's why we're spinning the grate. We want the grate to always be cool while the steak is searing. All right, we can go ahead and spin that thing. And just check it out this time.
Look at that.
The whole surface of that steak is seared, my friends.
Yep.
There's no sear marks, it's a sear mark. The Maillard reaction, the sear, that's that umami flavor. That's what really pops in your mouth. That's what everybody craves when they're eating, when you have what's called beef hunger. And what you're gonna find is just a little bit of this steak will actually make you full because it satisfies,
challenge.
like it hits that beef hunger on the bullseye. And you'll eat less of this than you would normally. All right, go ahead and let's see. You can just,
Take it off.
yeah, and show it to the camera.
Doesn't matter. Show me both sides.
All right, my first time using Slow N Grill system. To me, I thought it was easy, great, because I don't do a lot of cooking. I'm starting to grill more, starting to learn more. The way he explained everything, the whole system, perfect. I like my steaks a little bit more well done. So I think the steak was cooked good, perfect the way I like it. I think it's something that anyone can pick up and do and have confidence to do it. I feel that I can go back home and do this myself.
Well, I usually cook on a gas grill. I know very little about low and slow and smoking and searing, and it was unbelievable. And so it was nice to see the meat cook slowly. You could kind of see it come up to temperature, 110, something like that, I think. And then I had never, ever heard of the Cold Grate Method, but it was fun. It was fun spinning the grate around and watching it go.
So tonight's cook was an interesting experience. I've never cooked with the Slow N Sear. I have a pellet grill at home. I have a gas grill at home. And I showed up to group about an hour late. The steaks were already on the grill. They were cooking slow. They were about 110 degrees. And I was here for when we warmed them up and did that sear. The whole steak seared completely on each side, and these steaks taste amazing. I swear one of them tasted like it was wrapped in bacon. I didn't see any bacon, but I sure tasted it. These things were fantastic. Good stuff.
Home video style right there.
This is the I don't want to be on camera, but I'm on camera, so I got to
Yep.
do something. Yeah, right?
Yep.
David, this is like the best stuff you've ever done. This is clearly the most bestest grill stuff you've ever had
You have
on this deck.
Yeah.
Like the most bestest, not just the bestest,
Yep.
the most bestest even.
Oh, that's
super awesome.
That is high praise. The steaks were delicious, and as promised, here's some of the additional training for those who want to take a deeper dive into the cold grate technique using the Slow N Sear system. But before I give that to you, we're getting ready to offer these classes to the public, so make sure you stay tuned here on the channel to learn more about how you can take courses here at the BBQ Lab.
So the difference between low and slow smoking and hot and fast searing is radiant heat along with the temperature you're cooking at. Who's familiar with conductive heat, convective heat, and radiant heat? Well, we're all experiencing it right now. When you feel the wind blowing your face and that's chilly, that's convective heat, or actually the lack thereof. If you were to pick the Slow N Sear up with your hand and it started to burn, that would be conductive heat. But if you just hold your hand over the fire and you feel the warmth from the embers, that's radiant heat. Most of the time, we're cooking with all three when we're grilling. When you're smoking, you got to get the radiant heat out of the equation, and you want to cook with mostly convection. And there'll be a little conduction because your grate's going to be the same temperature as your pit temperature. So what the Slow N Sear does is it puts a wall of water between your heat and your meat, and radiant heat cannot get from the charcoal basket over to the indirect side. So this indirect side, all the way from the water reservoir to the other side, is very close in temperature. And there's no radiant heat, it's all convection, and you can get it as low as you want to. So what you end up with is a smaller grill, like a 22, this one's a 26, that will cook a surprising amount of food, even when a third of it is used as the hot zone. This cool zone has a similar temperature over the whole thing, so you can use the whole zone. And if you look at it and you imagine a large piece of meat, anything will fit on that. You can get 3 racks of ribs on this one. You can get a 20-pound brisket, no problem. That's a 22, and even with a 22, if you just kind of visualize what you could fit on the indirect zone, you can still get a brisket, maybe not a 20-pounder, but you can get a 13 or 14-pounder. You can get a 13 or 14-pound turkey on there. You can get 2 racks of ribs, 5 or 6 if you twirl them up with the bamboo sticks. But so you end up being able to get a lot of food on those using the Slow N Sear. We put the salt in it 6 hours ago, and the salt penetrates the meat. As the salt penetrates the meat, it does a couple of things. It holds the water in, so you have a juicier bite. And if you think of the muscle fibers that make up the meat, it causes them to loosen or unwind. So when you cook, whether you're cooking your steak to medium rare or medium or even medium well, I can't say well done, medium well, that's as far as I can go. Anyway, regardless of your normal doneness, that steak, if it has the salt in it applied hours in advance so that salt can soak in and unwind those muscle fibers, that steak's going to be more tender than it would have been if you had applied the salt right before you start cooking.
I want to say a special thanks to David for making the trip out here to Indy and spending the evening with the guys, teaching them a great way to make steak. Have you tried the Cold Grate Method before? Let us know down in the comments what you think about this way of cooking. I'm David Gafford from the BBQ Lab. Thanks for joining our little in-person class. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.